some people told me that Dave Mustaine doesn't like me, and I'm like, wait, what? Is that true? Like,
The David Ellefson Show. Featuring Grammy Award winner David Ellefson and respected metal journalist Joshua Toomey. Presented by EllefsonEmporium.com. Here is David and Joshua.
for what it's worth, the first couple shows are here in Southern California, so like I'm playing the Canyon Club, which is in Agora, then I come back home and sleep in my own bed, and then we play Beverly Hills tomorrow at the Saban, and then I come back and I mean that's like I'm literally I can walk there, and so then I come back and sleep at my house, and then Anaheim's the next day. That's when I actually leave my house. But so I have a couple days still at home, but it's just you know, a lot going on in my brain here.
Oh yeah.
I don't do well sometimes with all that.
Dude, it's funny. Sometimes, I'd like to think, I'm 60 going on 34, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And sometimes when there's all this stuff coming at you, you kind of go, oh my God, it's like, is this how this goes? Or it's
60,
just,
yeah, I'm 60 going on 94.
yeah. Yeah. Just look, we've all got a lot going on, right? We've got work life, family life, tour life. There's a gazillion things going on, so,
Right.
well, hey, first of all, thank you for coming on the show. And
Thanks for having me.
yeah, so when I saw your name come up, I was like, fuck yeah, John Bush. Let's talk to John. This is great.
Let's talk to John.
Let's talk to John. Yeah. All right. Welcome to the show. Glad to have you. You're going on tour today with Armored Saint with some dates with Michael Schenker from
Correct.
Southern Cal.
Yeah, and
And
it goes to Texas. It goes like, starts up here. We play the Bay Area, and then we go like Phoenix, Tempe. We'll be in Phoenix, I mean Tempe, and then we'll
yeah.
play, Albuquerque, and then into Texas, and then we come back. So,
And I will always go see you, except I think I'm not going to be here. So that's, the risk we take, right? As we're
right, that is
zigzagging across. Hey, I just saw something online, Facebook or something, where someone was giving a massive shout out for you, Armored Saint and Wasp. Did you guys just play it used to be the Hammersmith Odeon. Now it's the Hammersmith Apollo. You just played there, right?
we did, yeah. It was just
Yeah.
it was on Sunday, so we did 3 shows in England, and it was awesome.
Yeah. Super, super. So wait, you just got home?
I got home on Monday.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah, it was
All right,
amazing.
good.
We were stoked. We got to play the Hammersmith for finally. I mean, it's called something else, but it'll always be the
Yeah.
Hammersmith Odeon, of course. But
Of course. Yeah.
yeah, it was amazing. It was awesome. I had some technical issues that I had to overcome during the show, which was, par for the course. Of course, you're playing in a big show, and then, the
Of
mic
course.
goes
Always.
out. But it was annoying, and I had to convey to the audience, like, okay, I'm having some problems. This is how you really measure how good a band is when you can deal with this, and
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
was
It's
fun.
not,
It was
how good are you on your worst day? That's really the
exactly,
measure of how great you really are, not
exactly,
how good you are when it's all going well. And
exactly.
I mean, look, having been on stage with you many times, you have a voice that you really don't even need a microphone. You can just sing louder than the band anyway. So it's, but it's
Thank
funny.
you.
I played there a lot over the years with Megadeth, and I finally went there as a attendee. I went to see Marilyn Manson back in February when he played there, and I was looking around, just kind of going, "Oh, so this is the legendary Hammersmith, formerly Odin, and it was cool to be there, just as a, on the other side of the stage, to just kind of take it in, and so now I feel like I've had both experiences,
Yeah,
from the stage and now from out in the house, and it's freaking awesome, man.
it
I
is.
can see why it's so legendary.
Right.
So,
It's
but
beautiful there. I kind
yeah,
of thought it was going to be a little more dumpy, to be honest, but it's not. It's really nice. And
yeah,
yeah, it was cool to be
yeah,
there. Yeah, that was the sole purpose of going. We did 3 shows. We flew over there, we flew back, and they were all great shows.
yeah,
But it's hard to kind of really make money when you do something that quickly.
of course,
Once you got
yeah,
this massive payday, which we were the support act. So, and we were
yeah,
happy to go there and play with Wasp. We've had some great shows over the last couple of years with them, and the shows are great. And so it was worth it to do it, but it was kind of a whirlwind because you go for 3 days and you come back.
sure,
but it
course.
was great to it was a bucket list check off. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Hey, John, how have you enjoyed like the last few years of touring when you kind of took some time off there to be family man or whatnot? So how have you enjoyed kind of getting back out on the road and doing the tours again?
it's been great. I love performing, of course. It's the best part of touring and getting out there and rocking out and having a fun time on stage and playing songs that I've been part of through the years and in all capacities. So that part is always rewarding, and I love doing that and seeing the fans and having, the interaction with people. That's all great, and traveling is awesome. It's a cultural experience. I always say it's my college education. But being gone is never easy. Luckily, at this point, my kids are 18 and 20 now. My daughter's in Ohio and in college. So, I spent some formidable years of like being part of their upbringing, and I'll never regret that. It was really important to me, and now I'm kind of starting again. Well, we have for the last 5, 8 years now, but they're older now, so oh, you're leaving? Oh, okay. So it's,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
yeah, I mean, it's cool. It's great. It's all worked out pretty well. So
Yeah, I had that same experience, when Megadeth broke up in 2002. Calls came to go out on the road, and I thought, God, as much as I want to be on the road, my kids are real young. It's that critical time. And I got that job working doing artist relations for Peavy, which kept me
right.
home to be the soccer dad and Cub Scout guy and,
Right.
do all that. So as you then went through that, a few years after I did, I totally got it. You were the go-to guy. Oh, let's call John Bush. I'm like, I'm telling you guys, he ain't going to do it. Like, I just knew, having talked to you a little bit, you were hunkered down, and that was just a different phase of life. When I worked at PD, I did a little bit of stuff, some F5 stuff and Soulfly, and, I kicked around, did a couple things to scratch the itch, but, for the most part, I was not making my living full time on the road. So, who would have ever thought that guys like us in genres that we are, all these years later, now this is like the glory day, that this stuff has come to an even bigger life than it was even in the beginning, which you and I got in under the wire. We had record deals, and when there's still a chance to make a career, make a living, still, kind of be a full-time artist. And in fact, I was telling Josh, you and the Armored Saint guys were some of the first guys I met when I moved to LA in 1983. When I met Dave, and then we'd start seeing each other around, and you guys were a little ahead of us, getting a record deal, and you guys were on the radio, and, Southern California band, so, was you guys it was Armored Saint, Metallica, Wasp, right? Wasn't it?
Yeah.
Wasn't that kind of the big,
That was
yeah,
1985. Yeah, I was the winner of '85, and that was Ride the Lightning and first Wasp record and our first album. So people
yeah,
still talk about that tour to this day. It's a very kind of it had a lot of impact on people because they were young. We were
yeah,
young,
yeah,
so it was awesome, and um, it was a great run, and all those bands were making a lot of headway. Of course, Metallica was making the most headway, but
yeah,
everybody had a say in that, and it was some fun shows, and that was really when we got to know the Metallica guys really well and got to really develop a relationship with them personally, and that
right,
was a lot of good times, and we were still like 21 years old, so we were lucky because, as the same as you, I mean, we were lucky enough to have all this stuff in it to us when we were super young. So now we're older,
yeah,
not old, but older, and still going,
yeah, yeah,
so and with a lot of history to look back on. But yeah,
yeah,
it's lucky because, some bands, those things didn't happen to them. So maybe in their 30s, early 30s, some people.
right.
So now they're much older. So we were lucky to start young, and
Yeah,
I remember I always tell the joke about having this argument with a sound man who will remain unnamed, but he was pissed at us, and but they were like 3 records in, then we were Raising Fear album touring, and he was the sound man, and it was clear that, the record company was no longer interested, and we were probably going to get dropped, and he was pissed at us, and he goes, "You guys are done. You're done." And it was like, woo. like, and we were like, oh man, maybe we are done. And, and we were like 24, and
Yeah,
I'm looking back on that laughing, going, we were 24 and we were done. But I mean, at the moment, and we were like, wow, we were done. And he was saying that with a lot of harshness. And
yeah,
it was when we were 3 records in, and when we were probably somewhat done at that point with what we were doing at that point. But it's
right.
funny. I look back on that and laugh.
It's funny, John, you bring that up, and obviously, I'm part of a Primer 55. We're going back out on the road. We're doing the whole
Cool.
thing. The reason that I left the road was my son was 3 years old, and we were making no money, and I was like, well, I got to go home and be a dad. And now, like he's he's about to be 20 now, so I get it with what you're saying there with kind of the kids growing up, and now we can go and kind of relive the glory days and whatnot. But I remember the original time I joined Primer, it was over and I was 23, and I'm like, all right, well, if I start a band now, it probably won't get picked up till I'm 27, and that's too old. And you just go through all those things when you're that young, kind of seeing the feeling that age is such a number back then, and now you realize that it really is just a kind of a not a big part of the equation, I guess.
Yeah, again, everybody's life is different. Everyone's path is different. Some people started later in life. Some people, I mean, didn't Rodney Dangerfield become famous like in his late 50s or something?
Right.
I don't know. So I mean, everybody's path is different, obviously, but it's just 20s is pretty young to do anything. As a matter of fact, my kid's trying to figure out what he wants to do for if he's going to go to school. He plays hockey, so we let him play another year of hockey because he's 18. So he could have done it. My daughter's 20. She's entertaining the idea of going as a screenwriter. Where I'm like, okay, well, good luck with that. But but like you really don't know crap in your 20s, even late 20s, as far as I'm concerned about really life. So it's like, why are we supposed to be able to make all these decisions? Like when people come out of college, go into college, like, what are you going to major in? You're 19, 20 years old. Do you really know what you want to do for the rest of your life? It's very weird to me. So, we're lucky to have started young, but, again, I don't think you really know what you really want to do until I mean, I think anybody under 30 is still a pup. I really think
Right.
that,
Yeah.
so I don't know.
So let's fast forward to the news of the hour, which is you are going out and singing the years of songs that you were with Anthrax.
Correct.
And which, of course, I have an affinity for because I do Kings of Thrash. I understand it. I
Right.
get it,
Right. Yeah.
In fact, when I see people doing like, it's great. That's just Kings of Thrash. It's awesome,
Right.
man. Nice job. You know what I mean? And it's great because look, these are songs that probably aren't getting played a whole lot in the current Anthrax set, just because now Joey Belladonna's in the band. Um, just talk about it. Like, what kind of prompted it, and getting it out on the road and getting it going.
Yeah, I mean they really don't play these songs. They played only, this is about the only song they played and not really that many times. But it was something I've been talking about for a long time just because, it's a part of my life. I spent like 12, 13 years in Anthrax. We made 4 records. I toured countless states and did countless interviews and worked hard on helping create the songs with the guys. And so it was a lot of time spent and a lot of energy. And for it to just kind of fade into the darkness, which I get it, I really do. But for me, it's just, I'm like, well, I'm just letting this big part of my life just kind of go away. And I think that I don't really want that to be the case. So
Were the fans asking for it, or was it something kind of that you were going, that was really an awesome era? Like what prompted it?
well, I don't think there wasn't some big movement from the fan base, probably. I think I probably did a couple interviews where somebody asked me, would you
Hmm.
ever be interested in doing that? And then I was like, yeah, I would. And I think that's kind of what got the ball rolling. So, of course, a couple interviews came out, and John Bush talking about going out and doing the material from Anthrax. And then,
Right.
time went by, and I got caught up in life and all the other things I'm doing with Saint and everything else. And then came back up, and then me and Dan DeVita, who's my agent from TKO, he was the one who really was the catalyst behind it, saying, let's do this, you should do it. And I'm like, okay. And he goes, I'll look for dates. And I was like, okay. And then he would, and he would come back and he goes, I have something. And then I'd be like, it's not the right time. So this would go on for a couple years, quite frankly. And then finally it was this year, he was like, dude, let's just do it. You should,
Yeah.
why don't you do it? And I was like, you know what? Let's do it. So I have some time in December. Let's just do it. And, like I don't want to think about this anymore because then I'm just going to talk myself out of it, quite frankly.
Yeah.
So I said, let's do it. And we came up with the idea of playing these 3 shows, different parts of this country. Um, and, and that's kind of what got the ball rolling. And I think it's going to be really cool. A lot of people are really enthusiastic about it because the fact of the matter is a lot of people discovered Anthrax in the 90s. That's just the
Mm,
truth.
right.
People came of age listening to metal, hard rock. The 90s were a big part of it. That's when I joined. And so people discovered the band then. And so it's just another kind of nostalgic trip back, like a lot of things are, Kings of Thrash, you name it.
Right.
Um, and people like that. And even people who are there and even people who have heard about it, they look back and go, yeah, well, there is this time too, this other singer. And, let's check out those records and all of blah, 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 blah. So, I think it's going to be really fun. I'm not trying to compete with Anthrax. That's just not my objective. My objective is to just go out and kind of be the voice of these tunes I think there's some great songs there. I
Hmm.
also want to play some deeper tracks, songs that maybe we never played, and just go and have some fun with it. And I'm not really thinking really too much about what the future holds with it. Um, I mean, obviously, I'd like to probably do more shows than 3. I mean, I toured Japan, I toured Europe countless times,
Sure. Yeah.
South America with it, when I was in the band, and
Yeah.
I'm sure those people would like to see it too. But I don't want to bite off too much, that I can chew. I just want it to be fun. I really do. I
Yeah.
want it to be the primary reason behind it. It's not some big cash cow. It's just like let's go ahead and do something that will be fun and kind of remember these songs and those times, and we'll see what happens.
Are you using this also as like a nice vehicle to kind of get category 7 out there a little bit too? Because I know there's been a lot of start stop with category 7,
Yeah.
South American tour, things like that. And I guess it's kind of crazy, you have kind of 2 legacy bands that if you went out right now, you could get, huge guarantees, things like that. But trying to start a new band in 2025 and in the 2020s
Yeah.
has got to be a tough thing.
It is. And I mean, the Category 7 record is killer. It's an awesome
Mhm.
album, actually. We got lots of critical acclaim. I mean, James Hetfield was, claiming it was a killer record. And that guy doesn't need to do that. So, um, we kind of made a couple mistakes along the way, and I think there was a lot of expectations of like this could be this, and it's like, you know what? We're a new band, so even though all these guys have a history, we're still a new band. So it's not like we're gonna just roll right in and go, okay, it's John Bush and Phil Demmel and Jack Gibson, and so here we are. And it's like doesn't really work like that. So I think a lot of people were probably a little surprised and maybe disappointed. And we had a tour in the US and we canceled and it was a mistake. We should have went out and did it. And if we had to play in front of 50 people, we should have just did it, and not every show would have been like that, but there probably was going to be a couple. And what? So what? I mean, I wouldn't want to do
That's
that
how
for
it is. Yeah.
I wouldn't want to do that for 8 weeks, but I was willing
Yeah.
to do it for 3 weeks. And so, and then we canceled and it looked bad. And then South America thing was a debacle anyway. So that kind of fell apart. And then that was kind of lame from the get-go. But, it is a catalyst to put it together. And those, like I always say, those guys are incredible musicians. And if I started this from scratch, I would love to get those guys. So then we could just play this too. How much am I going to do this? I mean, I'm basically playing 2 sets. And that's daunting without a doubt. It's not 2 headline sets, but I'm doing it for this, and that's as far as again as I'm thinking, like, because
Yeah.
I don't know what my commitment after that is going to be. I'm going to have to evaluate how this all goes. I mean, it might be, well, that was easy and good, or it might be like, hell, that was hell. So I
Yeah.
don't know yet. So I got to figure it out. A lot of people are excited, but the idea of piggybacking a little bit, if you will, is logical.
So
And
what is the flow? Is it you open the show, then category 7, or category 7 opens, then you come out and do the Anthrax stuff? Is category 7 also
Yeah.
your house band? Like
I
what
mean,
is,
yeah, in a
how
sense,
does it all work?
we're gonna go out and we're gonna play like 5, 6 songs with
Mhm.
C7, leave the stage shortly, come back on, play the Anthrax material.
Cool. All right.
Same
Good.
goes. I might do a wardrobe change, you know, because I'm
Change
a
your black
sweat.
T-shirt to another black T-shirt.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Change my black t-shirt to another black t-shirt. But and but we don't want to have too much of our break. I mean, that's one of the things as a singer I'm a little concerned about is like once you warm up, and we do this with MA because
Sure.
it's like sing 2 songs. Okay, now we'll see you, John, in 9 songs. It's like what?
Dude,
Okay.
and the funniest thing, okay, so let's talk about that. So Metal Allegiance, as you just mentioned, MA as we call it, right? So we've done a lot of stuff with that. So I remember, so we'll play, Room for One More, we'll play a couple of your Anthrax songs, which are always great. They really are standout songs in the set, in my opinion.
Thanks.
But I remember there was a time at the House of Blues Anaheim, I think. We were getting ready to play, and I think Mike Monterulo, who's your agent with TKO, and maybe Charlie Benante came down, and there was this kind of weird moment that I don't think everybody was fine with it. They're like, "Great, John's here, gonna play some Anthrax, it's all good." But I remember there was a nervous moment. Was that kind of a point of inflection with all this, where it was kind of you just sort of just mending the fences, making sure the waters were calm? What was all that?
Well, he was there at there was House of Blues. We actually played. Charlie did play with us at the Fillmore in San Francisco, so we did
Mhm.
only together there. Um, and prior to that, I hadn't talked to Charlie a lot, so I was happy about that because I kind of broke some ice. Because when I left, me and Scott actually remained friends for the most part. Frankie and I were a little distant, but we had a thing. But me and Charlie, it wasn't good, and so I was bummed because I love Charlie, and he was, when I was in the band, we were very close friends, all three of us. I would kind of be the centerpiece between the three of them, and that wasn't
Right.
always easy, trust me. But like, I was close and I had my own personal relationship with all those guys individually. And so I was really, bummed about that. But, there were some things that went down when I left and Charlie was pissed and he was like, screw you. And I get it, in retrospect. It was like, okay. So, but a long time had passed and we hadn't communicated and it was awkward. So when I finally saw him, I was like, okay. And then he decided he was going to do it. And then once we were on stage, boom, it was gone. But I think that was another time he came, he kind of just showed up. And I was like, well, if you want to play, I felt
I
bad.
remember that because wasn't he playing in Pantera at that time? We said, "Dude, come on out and play," and he's like, "No." Like he and Carlo were kind of chilling on the side.
Yeah, I
We're
don't.
like, "Come on out, dude." He's like, "No, no, no," and it's um, you
And
know,
then
I,
Bram
I,
from Macedon was going to play it. And
yeah,
he
yeah.
was like, oh, yeah, here, play it if you want. And it was, slightly awkward. And
See, the good thing about Charlie is you can always just put a guitar in his hand and he probably knows
that's
how to
true.
play it.
That's
So you can
true.
always have him just be the guitar player.
I guess I could have said, you want to play the guitar? And he would have probably said yes.
That's how Metal Allegiance formed when we were doing the Big
I know.
Four. Mark Mengy, he had me, Frank, Charlie on guitar, and Portnoy on drums. And we were out at like Sam Ash music stores doing these kind of clinicky,
Right.
we didn't really know what it was. We were just trying to make it all up. Then it turned into Metal Masters, and then then it's transitioned to Metal Allegiance, which is great because it's a real performance,
Right.
vehicle now. But yeah, the I think that was probably the only weird rub, and not that it was a
No,
rub at
it
all. It
wasn't.
seemed like
He
everybody was
just
totally cool. Yeah,
Yeah, in the end, he was just like, no, no, I don't want to do it. But and it was like, yeah, don't feel stressed. I mean, it's we're playing music here.
yeah.
None of this should be any kind of stressful situation. It should just be all for fun. And then of course, so people have asked me, well, what about these guys? And I'm like, look, I mean, the door is wide open. If they want to come out and they want to play a song, if they want to play 5 songs, if they want to play no songs, if they don't want to go at
Right.
all, I mean, it's really up to them. I'm not taking it personal. I mean, I didn't do this contingent on whether they're involved, to be quite frank. I mean, I was going to do it, so, but I mean, they wrote those songs, they performed on those songs, they toured, they're their songs as well as
Yeah,
my songs. So,
yeah.
you know, if they want to be involved, great. If they don't, that's great. There's no like it should be all for fun. And that's really the perspective I take on it. So
Well, you are for sure the least diva lead singer that I've ever met in my life, especially for a guy who sings it like you do, and you have your cachet is wide, and of course everybody wants you. I swear to God, I can't tell how many times during a week will somebody go, man, I got this thing and we should call John Bush. Your name comes up all the time. And I'm just like, I'm telling you guys, leave him alone. He's my friend. Just leave him alone. Like, I'm not even going to pester him over this. As cool as it would be, just leave him alone. He's
Well, I
probably
mean,
playing the Hammersmith Apollo.
you and I did something years ago. Remember, Dave? Way
We
back.
did. Yeah.
Years.
I was riding. So I was out mountain bike riding with Nick Menza. That was kind of part of my getting sober health kick stuff I was doing. And there was a guy named Pat Shunk, who I ended up then writing an album's worth of material, Countdown to Extinction. There was a rehab incident inside of Megadeth. A bunch of shit was canceled in 1993. So I was like, well, again, you're over. It's like one of those big things you go, fuck, how did Budokan just go away? And it's all, someone's in rehab and you're just going, oh my God, is this it? Is it over? So I found a musical friendship with Pat. We started writing and we had this song called If You Were God. I wrote the music and he wrote the lyrics to it. And he heard your voice on it. And I go, fuck, let me call John. Back in those days, there's no cell phones or anything. I probably literally called you on the phone, and got your phone number, and and called you up. And you came over literally at 10 in the morning, man. Like, just woke up, whatever cobwebs and frogs are in our voices in the morning, and we just hit record. And you stood behind the mic and just ripped it down. It was like, holy shit, man! This guy like roars like a lion at 10 a.m. And it was so great. I mean, we kept it. It was just great. The attitude was so awesome. And of course, I go out and I sing that song live myself when I play it.
It's awesome.
Bass Warrior. And I always say this is a song John Bush sang, kind of
That's
as a
great.
Disclaimer, like, don't hold me to that frickin' bar. That's John. But I love the song. It's really a cool tune. And yeah, thank you for doing that. It's really,
Of course.
I just love the track. So
Yeah, and we've had history playing with MA and all that, and that's great. So
yeah.
I mean, look, I'm flattered by all that stuff, and I always laugh because I do have this cool reputation to be a nice guy, and I always say, don't get me wrong, I can be a dick, and it happens, but and then I always joke like,
I have not seen it, by the way. I've been in a lot of musical settings with you, and I've not seen it. So
I mean, I don't want it to come out often, and I don't want to be that guy, but it has. I'm not like some angel, but yeah, and then I always joke, it's probably why I never became that successful because I'm just not enough of a rock star. I remember Ron Laffitte, who we have another contact with, Ron Laffitte, who was your manager for a while and started off as Armored Saints tour manager, and he, even back in the day when we were playing clubs, he's like, dude, you got to be more of a rock star, and I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, what do you?
Yeah.
I'm not sure what you mean by that. What do you mean by like asshole or
Yeah, basically rock star
an idiot? I don't know.
Yeah.
What am I
And
not
just
doing?
so people watching know, so Ron Laffitte, he was a tour manager on that Wasp, Armored Saints, Metallica tour, and then he became Megadeth's manager, basically starting with Rust in Peace through Euthanasia. So just to give Ron a shout out here of his pedigree and where he was, and he was just a young scrappy guy. He looked like Bruce Dickinson, had hair down to his ass. Yeah, and he was just a total fucking metalhead. And he just got us, you know what I mean? And it was great to see him, and then he's since had huge success even after all that, But
I was managing Nelly and Pharrell and stuff. So
yeah, do it, making real money, But yeah, he was that guy. And it's funny that Ron would say that, because he's a nice guy too, he's a cool guy, but he had good instincts about things, he had really good instincts about that. And yeah, I mean, look, so to what degree does a band need an asshole to really push through? I mean, let's think about bands that don't have an asshole. Def Leppard is one that comes to mind. Like, there's no like sort of public dickhead in Def Leppard, right? Because we can name all the ones that have one, right? That's easy, right? We can go down that list, no problem. We should let's say Armored Saint, of course. We should think about some other ones. Maybe we can put that in the comments. Let's think about bands that don't have dickheads and are successful.
That's funny. Yes, it can be done. It can be done.
It can be done.
Well, John, one of the kind of running themes of this show is kind of looking back on David's career too and stuff, and kind of looking back, meeting him back in '83. Obviously, you had a little bit of history with Mustaine before before Ellefson comes to town. What were your kind of thoughts of Mustaine back then, meeting David back then, maybe those early Megadeth days, kind of seeing them come up?
Well, the thing about Megadeth is there was this real kind of they were this powerful band and they had this kind of unpredictability and Certainly Dave Mustaine was somebody who was unpredictable, and that was alluring to people because it was like, what's this band gonna do? And I'm not just in a destructive way. I'm not saying that. It was just like there was nothing that, Dave wouldn't have an issue with talking about. Junior always was like the guy who's the nice guy, it seemed like, probably keeping things kind of calm. But obviously, he had some demons himself, and I think the band had this kind of feeling of like, they, Metallica didn't really, they had, of course, this obviously this vibe, but Megadeth's vibe was different. Megadeth's vibe was a little bit more like, what's going to happen with this band? And as at the same time, here they are ascending and doing well, and just taking off and playing big shows, and getting on big tours, and just having big records. So I think that it was interesting to watch. And sometimes me and I don't know, like I might as well say it for the record here since we're here. Like some people told me that Dave Mustaine doesn't like me, and I'm like, wait, what? Is that true? Like, because we did the tour with Motley Crue, and it was great, and everything
Oh,
was
that's
cool.
right. I forgot that. Yeah, the
I-
Maximum Rock Tour. Yeah.
yeah, and so
Anthrax,
like
Megadeth, Motley. Yeah.
I'm like, but really, like I really don't remember ever having a problem with Dave personally, and in any situation.
I don't. I can, for the record, I can't put words in Dave's mouth, but I can tell you, I have never heard that ever around the
Yeah,
camp. You were
I don't
always
know.
one of the heralded cool guys. In fact, probably at one point we've thought about calling you to sing for Megadeth. Like, let's just, you know what I mean? Since every other band did, because in the beginning we were not going to be a 4-piece. We were going to be a 5-piece with a singer.
Right, right.
And of course you were all over the radio and your career's taken off, so you were unavailable basically. But if there ever was a conversation about a singer, in fact, I may have even seen that somewhere where Dave had mentioned that, like, would have been great to have John Bush in the band. And that, maybe I'm just making shit up here. I don't know, but I seem to remember something like that.
Anyway, so I don't know. Maybe it has something to do with a girl in the background. Again, I'm married for like 2 decades and have 2 adult kids, and he's married and has kids. So like, whatever, if that was related to that. But I mean, and even if it was something he was mad at back in the day, I was like, is that something he's really still mad about? Like, so I don't know if that really is the case. But since we're talking, I figured
Yeah.
I'd bring it up, and
as long as they're doing a farewell,
I don't have many
enemies. It's time to mend
don't have
fences.
many enemies in the music business, and
No,
I
you
kind
don't.
of
You don't.
so I don't want any, to be
I don't
honest.
have many enemies either, and I mean that's one that I can't seem to make get along. So I get
Well, yours is different. You were in a band together, and there's a whole different dynamic with all that.
It is.
And I get it. Believe me, I know, to be in a band, like I always talk about the Saint guys. I mean, we love each other, but it's not all wine and roses. It's not. It's hard sometimes. So
do you guys have arguments back to like high school and back to like those days where you remember shit from that still comes up in a
Well, I hope
conversation?
not. Probably some do. I mean, there's probably some grudges about certain things, but I mean, really at this point, it's like, man, come on, like, not only has Armored Saint been over pretty much on and off since 40 years, but
Mhm.
we've known each other for the most part since we were like 10 years old. So
Yeah.
what do we expect? We think everything is going to just be some smooth sailing trip of, ecstasy here. It's like you're gonna have a lot of issues and that you're gonna have conflict with, and that's just normal. That's what bands do.
I would say I would say over issues, you probably have more inside jokes that mean nothing to anybody outside the room. Like you're just like, you could just say words and everybody in the room knows what it means, and everybody walking by is confused.
Yeah, I mean, look, we at one point Phil was removed from the band, and that was early on, and it was really tough. That was Phil Gonzo's brother. It was a very awkward time, and we didn't really handle it so well. We kind of let Max Norman do it, which was pretty chicken shit. I've told Phil I'm sorry about that back in the day. But you've been in the band back for like 25 years again now, so
Yeah.
we've had a lot of rad experiences. So. You know what I mean? Like you could say sorry and you could do those kind of things, but like, what are you gonna do? Life went on, and that's all you can do.
I'm reading Geddy Lee's book, and you can tell, and there's a one point in the beginning where they sort of didn't call him for rehearsal, and they kind of tried to move on without him, and then they realized it was a mistake, and then they got him back. And I think even in the one of the movie, the Rush movie, there's this embarrassing moment for the manager, like, yeah, and then he tried to fire me, and then they cut to him. Did you try to fire Geddy Lee? And he's like nervous in his answer, and you can tell in the book there's still a little bit of a rub, you know what I mean?
Wow.
Like you'll just make funny comments. I mean, look, they've been together, as a team for 50 years or something, but you can just tell that it's funny how there's just these funny little quirks, and we've seen it. Look, Frank Bello and Charlie Benante are family. They're
Yeah.
their uncle and nephew, and even though they're the same age. So there's all in Anthrax. Obviously, look, you joined a band that has it's a family, truly.
Yeah.
And all their names usually end in vowels, Benante, Bello,
Right.
right, and
Galliano.
yeah, the East Coast thing, and they're a family, but yet you came into the band in the 1990s, which of course was very harrowing for all of us if you were a metal band. Pointy guitars and pointy letters were out, and you go from just, it all changed the sound of it. I remember very clearly seeing you on MTV. I guess would have been the Sound of White Noise, and just thinking, God, this is a cool. It's a cool idea to get someone like John to sing, because he's, you're a brother of the neighborhood, right? We're the same age. And to come in, the sound morphed and changed, because I think all of us, Megadeth, Metallica, maybe not Slayer and Testament, they didn't change their sound at all. But Anthrax, Megadeth, and Metallica for sure did, right? We modified things a bit, and getting a new vocalist is kind of free license to be able to do that. So,
Right.
Creatively, what was that like walking into that were there sort of marching orders, like we're going in this direction now, or like, how was all that?
Well, for me, it was easy because, I was taking a step up, of course, as far as success. There's no doubt about it. So Armored Saint was established, but we were not Anthrax, let's face it. So, um, it was, for me, and that could stand for my whole duration in the year. So even when there was tough times, for me, I was always going, well, this is more than what I've done. And for them, it was sometimes a struggle because it was a decline. Let's
Mhm.
face it. So, um, but in the beginning, it was all like, yeah, let's just kind of use this as a motivation to, we weren't attempting to reestablish a sound, because how you reestablish Scott Ian's guitar sound, but
Right,
why would you
right.
want to? But there was an idea of like, let's expand on what the band has done, and that's what Sound of White Noise became, which is a killer record. Um, and it was an opportunity to do that. When you have a lead singer, a new singer, a new voice, it's going to change things. And it was not easy. Joey Belladonna has a very distinctive voice and is beloved by Anthrax fans, so that was not easy. But I mean, they embraced me, so I was like, let's go. I didn't look back. So, um, but yeah, it was a cool time to be really creative. And the '90s had some amazing bands. I mean, Soundgarden, Alice in Chains, I put Faith No More in there because that's when they kind of hit. And I mean, as far as I'm concerned, those are some of the greatest bands of all time, So not
Right.
just in the '90s. I mean, not to mention Nirvana, of course, but so I was digging it. I was like, there's some killer music here, and using it just as inspiration, not really to, say let's sound like them. It's more like they kick ass, and that's cool and it's inspiring. So
Mhm.
it was the '80s were over, and it was time to kind of get excited about something new. So we're always going to be, Anthrax and Megadeth and Metallica are always going to be connected to the '80s. Let's say, and it's
Mhm.
Armored Saint as well. So, like,
Right.
I mean, we're doing this tour and we're playing 5 songs from Delirious Nomad because it's the 40th year anniversary of this. So, again, it's always going to look back on the '80s. You
Yep.
can't shed it. But it was a good time to move on so you could be creative. So,
Mhm.
and I mean, that's how I look at it now. Armored Saint made a new record. It comes out. We're mixing it. It comes out next year. It sounds killer. It sounds like a record that's going to come out in 26. But we're always going to be rooted in this heavy metal, blues, hard rock thing. That's our thing. But yeah, I want to make a record that sounds like 26. I don't want to make because I can't do that, and I want to do that. But
Mhm.
yeah. So you just trudge on. But I think that. you always look back on the 80s, and we're always going to say that was such a pivotal time for all of us. And it was great.
Now your era of Anthrax in the 90s, you guys were very linked to Pantera, and Dimebag was, always kind of considered like the sixth member. So kind of look back on working with Pantera and kind of having Dimebag around, and just the memory of him.
Well, that was awesome because, Danny Spitz left the band and actually after Sound of White Noise, and we didn't really officially replace him. So Dime kind of came in on the Stomp record, and he goes, I'll put a couple leads. And I think it was Charlie's idea, or maybe Scott and Charlie's anyway. They just like, let's get Dime to do a couple leads since we don't really have an official lead player. Paul Crook was helping us out and touring with us, but he was, he just wasn't an official member of the band. And although Paul did great stuff, he's a killer player. But it was like, yeah, that's good Dime. I mean, and then we did a tour right shortly after that where we toured with Pantera, kind of back-to-back tours. We really got to know them, even more so by touring together. And my liver took a beating, but it was a good time. To have Dime come in, then he played a couple more leads on Volume 8, and it was like cool. And yeah, I mean, it's Dimebag. He's just he's a legend, and he was always this jovial person to come in and just bring a ray of sunshine wherever he went, and to come in and have play some leads. I hear those songs, and it was funny because on his birthday, Liquid Metal did the whole Dimebag Day thing. Dude, they played every Anthrax song. I was like laughing. My wife and I, we went to a party. Rita and told us to come to this, little celebration of Dime's life. And we went there, and on the way there and back, I heard every song that I played in Anthrax with Dimebag. It was like, I never heard myself on the radio this much in my life. It's hilarious. And so, but it was cool because he plays on King Size and Riding Shotgun and Inside Out and Cadillac Rock Box. And it's like, and he played a lot of rad tunes. So really cool to be part of that.
Very cool. Well, good, man. Well, look, John, thank you for coming and hanging. You got a show tonight. So 2 words that I've learned in recent years is vocal rest. So
Right.
I don't want to have you talked out too much. So thank you for coming on. It was really, it was really great that Category 7 is up and running. We've had so many close conversations just because we've had camps and, managers and everything kind of around it all. So I'm glad that that's getting its day. I did the same thing with Kings of Thrash. We had a tour in Europe, and I brought my other band Dieth out. It's
That's
like,
great.
hey, I'll wear 2 t-shirts, play
There
2
you
sets.
go.
What do I care? You know what I mean?
Good for you, Dave.
Why not? So I've
great.
done everything you're talking about, and it's great. And sometimes we have to make the way. The phone rings
Right.
for us, and we are the ones who end up having to make the way. And it's great because then, like I said, at the end of the day, we're just on stage with our buddies, with our friends, making music. So however we get up there to make it happen is all the better.
Well, and I just got a text while we were doing it. Well, not right, because I wouldn't be looking at my phone during an interview, but right before we started, from Mengi, and he sent me the list of songs I'm singing. So we'll be performing together, I presume, in
at
January.
Metal Allegiance. Yeah.
So
Nice.
I'm like, okay, 6 songs this time. Okay. I just
Which
have
will
a
be
lot
announced soon, I guess, right? That's
it's going to be announced real soon. I just have so many lyrics in my brain right now. I'm like, oh my God, there's like all these words.
Well, I always say, there's certain people, excuse me, when you get on stage, the room changes. You, Corey Taylor, David Draymond, Lizzie Hale, there's Christina Scavia. There's just, the list goes on, right? But you are just one of those guys, man. You come out and it's just, you knot yourself up in a freaking ball, and I'd say, I don't know how your diaphragm and your abs fucking handle it, but dude, you just, when you hit the mic, dude, the room changes, man. And it's a pleasure to make music with you. I just love being on stage with you, and so I was, like I said, I was really happy about the Armored Saints success, of course, but then really happy to see that this is finally coming to reality here with everything else here.
You're
with the
in
Anthrax
town, and
stuff.
any of them come on by, both of you guys, and if not, then we'll do it another time. And thanks for all the kind words, appreciate it.
Yeah.
And we rock together.
On.
We'll rock.
Go rock out with the mighty Michael Schenker, dude. Come on.
Oh, it's gonna be fun. Schenker
into the arena. Yeah.
He's amazing. So we're stoked.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, John. Appreciate it.
Great week.
Bye.
All right, guys.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.